could just say, "Cool, that's weird, isn't it? They're taking a rabbit as their son. Oh, that's a bit odd. It's a bit rum, isn't it?" Well, you could. And if you want to, after watching this film, that's absolutely fine. Because it is remarkably odd. And that is the final scenes those are both. I think that is the final scene that you will see in this movie, which came out in 2023. It's called Starveacre. It's English, and I think it's about a lot more than a rabbit supplanting a dead child. But that is something which is quite creepy and horrible. It's a hare rather than a rabbit. It's bigger. And it does, I mean, let's put it this way. The hare is mothered and needs to feed, to put it that way. It's quite disturbing. But then this movie generally is quite disturbing. It's a folk horror. It came out in 2023. I'm looking at some notes because I want to make sure I get this absolutely right because it's rather good. Directed and written by Daniel Cocatello. I hope I've pronounced that right. I really do. And it's a simple story. The main character here is probably the landscape, because what this film and what an awful lot of great horror films allow you to do. I think I talked the other night on Halloween night of my favourite film, funnily enough, Halloween. And one of the reasons why I like it is because it's mid-paced. There's no rushing around with car chases and quick cutting and all that. It allows the film and Michael Myers to take its and his time. And that makes it even more frightening. Because you don't think, well, it's not going to happen to me. I don't live that kind of life. Well, it can happen to anyone. And that's what happens here. The landscape affects the relationship of Richard, who's an archaeologist, he teaches at a local school, and his wife, Jules. And both great performances, actually. Both quite anguished and closed off performances. Matt Smith as Richard and Morfydd Clark as Jules. They're both quite closed off. And whilst they have a child, Owen, the landscape, and we see an awful lot of the horizon, and one of those things where there's landscape and nothing there apart from one tree. That sort of thing. They live in a quite secluded farmhouse. Whilst they have a child, the feeling is that they don't really connect, and there is a child there, but their relationship is barren. It seems. It does seem to me to be about relationships, this. Because the only thing they really have is Owen, their child. And he starts hearing some whistling sounds. And also exhibits some behaviour. At a fair, let's put it this way, there's a touch of equus about a horse's eyes here, and it's thought that Owen did this. After all, he is carrying a pointy stick which is dripping with blood, so you don't need to be Sherlock Holmes. To my word, Holmes, you've done it again. Well, it was the pointy stick, Watson. Yeah, anyway, you don't need to be him to really work that out. So he is taken to some kind of clinic. This appears to be set in the 70s, this film. I think it does appear to be. I think. Anyway, it does appear to be, actually, yes. And something in my beard here. My tash. It's weird. Oh, it's strange. Maybe it's part of my dinner. Could be. I have to look at that later on. Maybe enjoy it as a snack later on. a snackette. Anyway, they do have him investigated by some kind of head doctor, a head shrinker, that type of thing. There is a scene which is quite reminiscent of The Exorcist when he's wearing a helmet with an enormous amount of electrodes on it. Very soon after this, they're both affected, both Jules and Richard. Richard's at school, Jules is at home, and she's looking out at the horizon. There is an old story of a tree that was cut down, and Sean Gilder, who's great actor and very sweet in this, but don't let that fool you, has been talking about the tree, which has now been cut down, and the way people met under the tree and talked under the tree and then were hanged from the tree. So there's a scene where they're both affected by certainly some kind of landscape, something in the landscape that's no longer there. We think it probably is a tree. And Owen collapses, and subsequently, he's an asthmatic, subsequently passes away. And they are desperate to bring him, the relationship is in different areas. So, first of all, Richard wants to get on with it, and he wants to get on with his own work, which is finding the bones around this tree. He's an archaeologist, you see, so he's got his own tent and all of that, and he's got the bones going on with the tree and all that. I've sat up and getting excited. And Jules is sort of locked off. Her sister comes to see her. Doesn't think much of Richard, I don't think, and Richard sort of, let's get on with it. And so they're both different people. And then once Richard brings the bones that he's dug up of the hare back to the house, and it starts to reanimate, bit Hellraiser, really. He changes because he brings Jules into, this creature's just arrived, doesn't tell her where from, but they kind of connect by catching the creature and letting it go. It comes back, of course, but that's the moment when they're both together in their relationship, and then it flips. And Richard becomes more of a sort of quieter and cut off, and Jules wants to be with Richard a little more, and is trying to find out about Owen from a local medium and that sort of thing. It is about their relationship. Eventually, they will both come together because they need something to both to get together with. Now, Richard is with his friend from school, or the teacher, trying to uncover the roots of the tree. And as the teacher says, they're so well preserved, and it's almost as if they're being nourished in some way. And of course the rabbit comes back, and they need a belief system. And something they do together. It's not about the hare being laid in a cot or suckling from Jules's breast. It's not about that. It's about, we both believe in something here, and Jules has to convince Richard of that. And it's almost as if he says, yeah, we'll do that, and we'll kill your sister while we're at it. They're both complicit in that. It's something they both can believe in. Sean Gilder is part of the cover-up of this. He's burying people for them. And although there is a sense of, this is what happens, there is a folklore around it which says that a spirit, a body needs to be taken. And they've done that with Owen, and now the folklore can continue. But it's not about that. That's just something to tie, to facilitate a relationship, in my view. Only connect. A connection. It's a terrible connection because people are dead. And the rabbit is in a cot. But that's the way they've connected. And that's the frightening thing. Because it seems as though that's as natural as it should be for them. Because it facilitates their relationship. And just because it's not what you and I expect, that doesn't mean to say it's wrong. Does it? Well, in a place where it's so distant there appear to be no rules, in a place that's cut off, you can do what you like. Can't you? That's the frightening thing. It's a brilliant movie with some very anguished and reined in and held in and boxed off performances, particularly in the two main roles. And some people could say it's quintessentially English. No one shows their real feelings until they find a way to get through that. And that's the terrible thing. The relationship is what's important. That was Owen. He's now gone. But they need something else. It just happens to be a hare. Ta-ta.